Hello and welcome to another edition of Motorsport Atlantic, brought to you by the members of the Atlantic Sports Car Club. My name is Debbie Clark. Anybody who has owned a car in the past few years may have experienced going into a tire store and having to purchase tires. Usually we don't keep our cars long enough, or we keep them long enough so that we are changing tires. We don't get rid of the car just as the tires are about to retire. So you've often been in the market for a snow tire or a summer tire, maybe an all-season. Maybe you're interested in performance, making the car handle a little bit better. There are all sorts of things on the market nowadays to help you do just that. Probably changing the tires on your car may be one of the quickest and cheapest ways of making it handle better, or better for your particular application, whatever your choice of entertainment may be with your vehicle. For our show we have today racer Darrell Whitehead from Atlantic Motorsport Park, who does road racing as well as rallying, and Mr. Bruce Hawley from General Tire. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to see us today.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawley, Bruce, I guess. Mr. Hawley, you said was your father's name. Motorsport Advertising Coordinator. That sounds like a very interesting job. How did you ever fall heir to that?
Basically, I started off working for the tire company I'm working for now as a salesman. Worked my way into being a sales manager, and I've always been interested in motorsports, no matter what it was. And the opportunity came up. We got into motorsports in Canada, and the offer was made to me, and I said, well, why not? Let's find out what it's all about.
It's a great place to be. I know General Tire has been involved with a lot of things lately. I know, Darrell, you've been running on those tires for years. First with rallying, and then now your road racing effort, and you're still doing both. Tell us a bit about that.
We switched to road racing this year. Tried it last year with the rally car. Found it fairly exciting and competitive. And we're running on street tires, which is interesting to run on against the slicks. The rallying, of course, we run on snow tires, which is a totally different road surface and conditions. Relate to the how the car handles and slides around the corners. It's fairly exciting, both of them are.
Probably tires being the biggest component, the biggest thing you can do to make that car handle better. Horsepower being a given, you're going to prepare the engine a particular way, but the choice of tire being a big reason why you're going to win or place well?
It's a big factor in both road racing and rallying. Punchers and rallying can make you win or lose a rally, as well as traction. And of course, traction in road racing means a lot.
Yes.
As you know.
And rallying for the past few years, most of it being on gravel roads and dirt roads, and some pretty horrendous roads too. The research and development you must be able to do with cars with your tires mounted on it. Are you finding that very beneficial?
Well, that's the reason why most tire companies get involved in motorsports as automobile manufacturers, is the fact that what we learn at the track or on the off-road, whether it's rallying or off-road racing, we take that knowledge and develop the tires from there, whether it's tread patterns, whether it's compounds, whether it's, for an example, we have developed a rally tire that we learned that the stubble guard, which goes around the rim of a tire on a farm tire, helped us in rallying and preventing flats. So everything goes, and everything is very relative when it gets down to looking at what happens to the tires, no matter what form of motorsport it is.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. So you're not just involved with cars and trucks, you farm tractor tires too?
Yeah, well, in the West, as everybody's aware, in Western Canada, a lot of it is farming, and we are one of the three major manufacturers of farm tires, and we have used some of the knowledge that the farmers have had problems with, failures because of flats, up around the bead area, which is where your wheel sits, by putting in a, if you want, for lack of a better word, an extra bead. It has prevented some of the flats for our rally cars.
And you call it a stubble protector?
Stubble guard.
Stubble guard.
Yeah.
And would that just actually prevent any kind of debris getting into the bead of the tire between the rim and the bead?
It prevents debris from getting in, and it also prevents, for example, if a vehicle goes over a large object and the object happens to come back up on the sidewall of the tire, it prevents the abrasion on the sidewall of the tire.
I see, that's interesting. Nothing like very high G-forces being generated by the old John Deere?
No, nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
It's
leave
just
that
a
up to Darrell.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a preventive maintenance type thing, and it's worked for us.
Isn't that something? So what is the strangest tire that you people manufacture?
We manufacture different tires. We manufacture everything from your normal passenger tire right on up to your large earth mover tires. There have been some very funny situations. For example, I'll give you an example. We had a the government of Tanzania approach us to produce tires for pull carts. And they had the impression that they had to run on radials. And we finally convinced them through one of our departments that they basically had to run on a straight, regular, bias fly, $25 tire. But they had in their mind that they had to go on a radial tire and everything else. So I guess it's just a lack of understanding of what tires are used for and what the purpose is.
Maybe the benefit of advertising, they've heard so much about radials, they don't assume that anything else is good anymore.
That's probably it. That's probably it.
And you have manufacturing plants in Canada?
We have one manufacturing plant in Canada, and we have 5 in the U.S., and we also have an additional 6 in Europe, all under a corporate structure.
I see. So your tires international. You can be found anywhere across Europe and in the United States and Canada.
You bet, yeah.
What about as far as the different applications go? We were talking about the farm tires and different tread. Your research and development for rallying, for instance, have you been involved with rallying for many years?
We've been involved with rallying for 5 years now. We began sponsoring a national series 3 years ago. We're in our 3rd year now, and that has led us to develop special tires for rallying. The one thing that we do though and try and stick to is that the tires that we produce for rally are tires that the normal consumer can purchase at his local store. It just happens to be a different size than they would normally use, but it's the same tires.
Are they all DOT approved?
All DOT. They have to be. They have
I was
to be.
going to ask you that, Darrell. I suppose for rallying and racing, DOT approved tires, is that part of one of the rules and regulations of the sport?
Yes, part of the rules of rallying and also for racing. And the GT class over here is DOT approved street radials.
We've been going more and more to radials lately. I think we only have one of our 3 classes now that will let you run the unlimited, as it indicates, would let you run on slicks if you have them. But the tires, the radial tires of today are just so advanced, and they're so much quicker, and the cost is right in there, I suppose, to buy slicks or to buy radials.
A lot less than slicks.
And especially in Nova Scotia, when you race, regardless of the weather, rain, sun, or shine, you need rain tires. So if you're going to race on anything, I recall a few years ago when we were racing the White Falls Village street tire class, you would hear the sedans go around maybe in the GT class. They'd put on the radials, and then you could really hear them go around, the tires squealing and everything, and it's just slower, but by not very many seconds at all. Now, for OEM equipment, or the original equipment manufacturer, are you on any specific manufacturers?
Yeah, we are on General Motors cars. We are on Ford cars. We are also a major supplier to the Nissan Pathfinder, without making any commercials, but Nissan Pathfinder.
Right.
We also are involved with Isuzu. We manufacture tires in the U.S., ship them to Isuzu in Japan, and they return the cars with our tires on there.
Really?
It's mainly, probably more than anything else, made it a lot easier for those companies, especially Isuzu and Pathfinder, to sell the vehicles in the U.S.
American
because
content.
it's the old story, American made, and it's a lot easier to sell.
Sure.
And a lot of those products are also exported to Canada and come up with the General tires on them.
Which is the biggest market, the aftermarket or the OEM?
Depending when the way the economy works. When they're selling a lot of new cars, obviously the OE market is very important. When you're going through a slower period, the aftermarket has a tendency to take priority just because of the fact that people aren't changing their vehicles, but they're changing their tires. It's a $600 investment versus a $16,000 investment.
Yes,
it's
I
basic
see.
economics, that's all.
So everything depends on economic conditions. So we can't get away from that at all, can we?
No, unfortunately we can't.
No, that's too bad. Darrell, racing this year, Atlantic Motorsport Park. How have you been doing?
Not very well.
Too much horsepower, if there's any such a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't the problem with the tires, that's for sure.
No, it wasn't tires at all. It's been a tune and testing year for us this year. I guess we'll write it off to. Getting used to the car, getting the car built for a specific purpose. It was a production rally car with no engine modifications whatsoever.
And you've changed that drastically.
Yes, full road race, close to 200 horsepower engine. So it takes a while to get the bugs out of it.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
And I know when you're running, you're painful on the ears, that's for sure, that Toyota. Now we have,
makes noise.
yes, especially. We have more rallyists getting involved with road racing all the time. Is that because of maybe a bit of a slowdown in the actual rallying events? Is it more difficult to find gravel roads, or does it also benefit you to road race, getting the experience you need on pavement to help you run rallies?
There have more paved stages in rallies in the last few years. But yeah, it's true. The roads are getting harder to find. Rallying's getting find good roads is getting very hard because most of the rally roads are now big 4-lane highways.
Yes, civilization is encroaching.
Yes, exactly. And so road racing is a different feel for some of the rallies. We're not used to going door handle around the track with somebody. We don't see our competitors till the end of the stage. So it's a different feeling, and I think some of the guys enjoy it. And we also miss rallying when we get out over the track.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah. Well, you'd enjoy it more if you were running full-time out there as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to see the street race that was just recently announced that will be held in Moosehead Grand Prix.
Very exciting.
Should be out there. You've got 3 weeks, I guess, to get prepared.
Yep.
The generals are all ready to go. You just
We'll be
strap
ready.
them on the car. It's
Yeah.
just getting
We'll be
the
ready.
engine to hold together.
Yep.
Find new cam seals.
Car will be ready and out there.
We have a few tires here in front of us. I was hoping what you might be able to do, because I think in my mind that the major technological changes have been in tires. There's so much that's been going on in the past few years, and I do believe it's one of the cheapest and quickest things that you can do to change the handling of your car.
It definitely
And
can
you
be.
are involved in all sorts. Passenger tires alone could probably take us a whole show to go through, and you've been good enough to bring 4 examples. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Maybe start with one of them and give us a rough idea of the particular qualities and why they're good for that application.
Okay, well, if we look at the first tire on my left, you can see that is a regular all-season tire that normal consumer would buy in as much as it is good for running all season, as the description says. It has particular characteristics versus some other tires that are only summer tires, in as much as that it will have, if you look at the tire, small sights in the tires as opposed to the larger grooves that you can see, and the sights are used mainly for traction, especially snow and sleet. If you go to the tire next to it, which is a performance tire, which has only grooves in it, it is a straight summer tire. It is made specifically for performance, and the large grooves help dissipate the water. And they serve as water channels.
And the more tread you have, more rubber you have on the road, the more traction you have, and that's why it's more specifically a summer
Well,
tire.
that can also work against you, because when you have more tread on the road and it is wet, you also have the factor of having more chances of slipping and sliding. Therefore, you have to find ways of dissipating the water as opposed to what you normally would do, and that is called hydroplaning, which means basically floating on the water. And one of the better ways to fight that is by creating grooves in the tires for the water to dissipate through it.
Now, I should have checked earlier before we set this up, but are these tires of similar size? They certainly don't look it, but...
No, they're not. The
Okay.
first one is a 13-inch tire. The second one is a 14-inch tire, which is an HR-rated tire, which is a performance tire. You would now start finding on some of the original equipment that's coming out. The consumer is now becoming more and more knowledgeable about his vehicle, and also combined with that is the manufacturers are beginning to build more sophisticated suspensions, and the tire is part of a suspension, and therefore one has to complement the other. And sidewall heights has a lot to do with that, and also tread patterns has a lot to do with that.
You can certainly see the difference in tires. Now, I know this can't be a 14-inch.
No, that's a 15-inch tire. However, the only difference, other than the size, between these two tires is the tread pattern on those tires are different in as much as the one on my left, or the first one I was talking about, is a regular summer tire. The one on my right, or directly facing me, is an all-season tire. Both are HR-rated tires. The construction of the tires internally are both the same. The difference is the tread pattern, and also, I don't know if the cameras can pick it up, but the first tire, the summer tire, the shoulders are a little squarer.
Oh, yes? Yes.
The other one, the all-season, the shoulders are a little rounder.
Why is that?
For wear patterns. Originally, when the all-season tires came out, they came out square, and I don't know if you can, your viewers can remember that, but the thing they used to wear out, the first thing on an all-season tire, way back when they came out, was the shoulders.
Really?
So to fight that problem, what we've done is rounded the shoulders a bit.
I guess I'm still trying to figure that one out. I would have thought that was under inflation if it was wearing out on the shoulders of the tire, but this particular application, it would wear out?
It could now, because technology has now solved the problem of the wearing of the shoulders. The wearing on shoulders now could directly be attributed to underinflation.
Everything else has been researched out and
we've,
almost foolproof.
all the tire industry has solved that problem pretty well.
Isn't that interesting? Because you can definitely see here, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but far more rounded shoulders to that other one. And the fourth tire?
The fourth tire is a race tire. It's a treaded race tire, which means it's a street DOT approved tire. In this case, we've brought a 16-inch tire with 4 30 seconds of tread depth in it.
That is a 16-inch tire.
That is a 16-inch tire. It is a 225/50/16, and the reason it looks so much smaller than the 15-inch is the height of the sidewall versus the 15-inch tire. One is a 50 series tire, which means the 16-inch one, that is, which means the height of the sidewall is 50% of the width of the tread. The 70 series tire, which is a 15-inch, means the height of the sidewall is 70% of the width of the tire, which makes it a higher sidewall, which makes it look like a bigger tire.
Now that's
which it is.
Yes, this is right. This is a fairly standard procedure as far as sizing goes, is it now in the industry?
Yeah, it is. It is. You'll find that most of the tires by the major manufacturers are fairly compatible when you're looking at a 60 series tire, 70 series tire, and 50 series tire if you're going to a 16-inch tire.
So if someone was to buy tires for their car, would you recommend that they first read the sidewall of the tires they have now and get exactly the same replacement, or are your people probably in your stores able to tell someone and warn them about offset or warn them about clearance? There's a lot to it. You just don't go out and put your money down.
There is a lot to it. One of the things that ourselves and most manufacturers have now for the in-store salesman, if you want, or the counter person, is a training seminar of 1 or 2 or 3 or several days in various stages explaining exactly the different aspects, ratios, and the consequences of those. And there are formulas that you do have in existence that you can do it off the top of your head, or books are made available to all the counter people, and if you decide that you want to go from a standard profile tire, which is, for example, a 185/75/14, which is a standard for a Cutlass Sierra, if you want, to a lower aspect, which gives you better handling.
A lower profile, you mean?
Lower profile, that's right. Better handling, better cornering, and so on and so forth. Better traction, certainly in dry. They have got the comparative chart that will explain it to them. So it's not something that you can go in there blind. But, like I explained before, because of the literature available nowadays, most consumers are fairly aware of what is going on.
I suppose the people who walk into your store half know what they want to do, and your people, your job would be there to make sure that we don't blow up differentials or something, because it can be quite a difference, can it, Darrell, if you're putting on a 50-inch or a 13-inch, you're affecting gear ratios. You're doing all sorts of things.
Yeah. Gear ratio, even for street cars, 6 kilometers, it would be way off.
Yeah. Which
hard to get
won't
yourself
help in
a
a
speeding
quarter block.
ticket. No, it won't.
Unfortunately.
Won't do anything for you. Yeah.
What size do you run at the track? Do you have a particular size as opposed to rallying?
These ones here are off of the race car that we run.
The last one we looked at?
16-inch, yeah. And we also run a 13-inch. So we can use this to change, as we said, the gear ratio of the car for the track. And rallying, we run a 13-inch fairly narrow tire, the only thing too wide.
Yes. Something with a higher, stiffer sidewall, is that a possibility?
No, the height of the sidewall is not as important as a little bit of clearance, and also the side bite of the tire. A narrow tire, especially in the front of the car, will grip a lot better than a wide tire.
So if you're going
to a snow tire, you know.
Gravel or snow, you want something with a narrow tread to
bite
instead
right
of floating
down
on top to get down and cut right through.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have the many different applications and all sorts of ways of making them. How long does it take to make a tire?
Well,
Just your general private passenger tire.
well, it's deceiving. Our plant in Barrie, which is our Canadian plant, manufactures 10,000 tires a day. We have some plants that manufacture 50,000 tires a day, and some of our competitors have bigger plants than that. To manufacture a tire, it goes through different stages. A lot of the material is already what we call pre-cured. The rubber is pre-cured, and then it's just a question of assembling the parts together to make the tire. Depending what the size of the tire is, and there is a curing time. Once the tire has been made, it has to sit there to cure.
Really?
The bond itself.
How long is that?
The total production of a tire from the time it starts till it finishes, again, depending on whether it's a high-performance tire or a regular street tire, is a day, roughly.
Really?
Yeah.
And the curing time alone takes how long?
Again, it depends on the size of the tire. It depends on what the materials are in the tire.
Yeah.
Performance tires, because of the sophistication of the tire, takes a lot longer because you've got a lot more materials involved in producing the tire. Curing can be anywhere from 2 hours to 12 hours,
Really?
depending what the product is.
Is there a shelf life?
We put a 5-year shelf life on the tires. Every tire has to have a DOT, and within that DOT number, the last 4 digits of the DOT, if the consumer looks at it, tells the week that the tire was made in and the year. So the last 2 digits are the year, and the 3rd and 4th last digits are the year when the week of which the tire was made.
Really?
Yeah, and we put a 5-year shelf life on it.
Is there any particular reason for that? Can you prove that actually the rubber deteriorates after a period
The
of time?
rubber does deteriorate, and most of the time what happens is where the tires are stored, there's an ozone, there's ozone, and that deteriorates the sidewall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You'll get the consumers that has a tire that's 6, 7 years old will probably have cracks on the sidewall.
Yes, you can almost tell, can't you, just looking at old
That-
rubber? Yes.
Yeah, that's called weather checking.
I see.
And it's specifically because of the weather and the climate. You'll get a lot of dealers that will store tires for 3 or 4 years, and they've got compressors and generators, and that creates gases which deteriorate the rubber.
Isn't it something?
Yeah,
So, but check your last 4 digits, make sure you're getting a new manufacturer.
that's the key. That is the key.
Now, there's a lot of information on the side of a tire. I mean, every year there seems to be more numbers and letters and things. I'm still fascinated by the sizing. I know a few years ago someone tried to put out a metric tire. That didn't seem to last very long. Have you ever ventured into that field?
No, we didn't. We learned from the competition's, let's say, misfortunes on that.
You need a whole separate rim. There's nothing interchangeable. It was
No.
maybe cut a little easier to understand instead of the 205, 85, 75, 13, 14. You can really get involved there. But certainly the sizing is on the side of the sidewall and DOT approval. Now we know about those last 4 digits. Thank you very much. What else can you find on the sidewall of a tire?
On the sidewall of a tire, obviously, you'll find a name brand. You'll also find indicated in there whether it's an all-season. All seasons have the designation of MNS, which means mud and snow. You will also find the different ratings of tires. It is not used in Canada, but it's used very heavily in the U.S., where they rate their tires as far as wear of tire, temperature to which it will stand up to, okay, and traction also.
Really?
Their criteria that they use. We don't use it up here. The criteria are set up basically on test by independent bodies for the U.S. government.
I see.
And because of a lot of the imports are cross-the-border imported and exported, we also have to put those designations on our tires that are going south and those that are coming north.
So what about the speed rating? Do you actually strap them on a car and say, go as fast as you can, let us know when they blow? No, you don't do that.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that.
Controlled laboratory conditions.
Controlled laboratory conditions and speed ratings, up until recently, were all controlled by the Economic Council of Europe. Okay, and it was through testing. They had standards, and if you met a certain standard, you got a designated speed rating. Now, some of the North American manufacturers have internal testing, which will lend approval to a certain speed rating of a tire. And the speed rating of a tire is designated by several factors. The construction of the tire is the biggest factor. What's inside that tire will make it react in certain ways, which will give it the speed rating that it warrants.
Yes.
Specifically on certain vehicles, especially, you know, like when you start getting into Ferraris and stuff like that, you obviously will not have the same tire as the same old cattle going to the grocery store, obviously.
Yes, and some being specifically designed for a specific car, a specific model. What about the old bias belted? Can you still buy them, and who would?
Basically, there are still manufacturers that build them. I don't know of any of the major manufacturers that do build them. They have outlived their life, as they say. They were one step more than the bias tire. They were belted tires, and from there we went to the radial glass belted tire, and now we've gone to the steel belted tire. There are, like I said, a few manufacturers that build them, but certainly not the majors. We got out of bias belted tires 3 years ago.
Really?
There just is not a market to generate the manufacturing of it. There's just not enough numbers.
Darrell, you would do most of your racing and rallying on a radial tire.
All our racing really is on radial tires.
Be it snow or all season or summer, you have quite a choice when you're affiliated with this gentleman here. You have your
Very helpful, yeah.
pick of the crop.
Yeah, it's helpful to pick some tires and to have the best views out there. Yeah. Means a lot.
Yeah, big component. Truck tires, or would they be radial as well?
We still do build some bias tires, not bias belted, but bias tires and radial truck tires, yes, we do. All of them are manufactured in the U.S. right now.
I see.
And again, the bias truck tire is slowly being phased out. Just basic economics both on the manufacturer's side, but also the consumer side, where the cost of buying a bias tire is getting pretty close to a radial tire, and the lifespan is certainly not there. It's at least half of a radial tire.
And gas mileage being a big plus, less rolling resistance with a radial tire.
That's right.
Just a better idea all around.
Yes.
So what's your next better idea? What can we look forward to in the future?
Well, on the passenger tires, you're certainly going to see a lot of changes. The newer model Corvette is on a 17-inch wheel.
Yeah.
You can look to an 18-inch wheel. The thing that has been slowing down the development of an 18-inch wheel or end tire is because on an 18-inch wheel and tire you have a very low sidewall.
Yes.
Therefore, you don't want to run like as if you're running on a solid tire. Therefore, you need a complementary suspension system, and it's trying to find the perfect marriage between the tire and the suspension system. There is also now some of our competitors are developing a 19-inch tire, which I've seen. You will also, we are now getting into, if you want the lack of a better word, a flat free tire, where now all the manufacturers have one. It's a special tire where if there is a puncture that occurs on the face of the tire, there is a liquid inside the tire that will self-seal the tire.
Really?
But again, it's limited to temperatures. It will not work at anything below 30 below, which kind of limits it. It is not going to run in Whitehorse in the Yukon. Let's put it
And in
that
Nova
way.
Scotia most of the time,
Well,
too, it seems.
I don't know about that. I try and stay away from the winter as much as possible.
So it's going to be less and less easy in the future just to go out and pick up some tires and just strap them on the car. There'll be so many different applications. The consumer just has to be better.
The consumer has to be more knowledgeable, but the tire dealer will be more knowledgeable.
And that's where your stores come into it with people who can help. You'll get somebody who'll come in and not be aware of tires at all, and you'll be able to help them and make sure they have the right things on the vehicles, right rim protectors.
Right rim protectors and everything else.
And enough tires to keep Darrell on the track.
Exactly.
I think we're almost out of time. It's amazing to think you can use up a whole half-hour show on tires, and I know there are other questions that we haven't even gone into yet. But thank you very much, Bruce Hawley, for coming in, General Coordinating Motorsport Advertising Coordinator for General Tire, and of course Darrell Whitehead, local, renowned rally road racer. We'll probably see you both maybe at the street race.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's been our show for tonight from Motorsport Atlantic. My name's Debbie Clark. Good night.